It is, shalom everyone. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh to lose. A thing for fools this, a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. I'm Rabbi Joanne Loibin, and we are gathered here today to honor and remember Sherman Potter, Sonny to all who knew and loved him. Jewish tradition teaches us to celebrate the life of a person, to tell stories and to share memories, to dwell on the full and rich time that Sonny spent on this earth. That is our task today, to honor and remember Sonny. This service is also a space for us to mourn. This is a time to begin coming to terms with a world that has been altered for each person here in a different manner. And so we begin with the words of our Psalms, prayers of comfort in the face of loss. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai Roi, Lo Echsar. A psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me to water in places of repose. God renews my life. God guides me in the right paths as befits God's name. Though I walk through the valley of the deepest darkness, I fear no harm. You are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table for me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My drink is abundant. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me in all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai for many long years. Psalm 121. Shir lema'alot esa einai el heharim me'ayin yavo Ezri. I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your guardian. Adonai is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm. Adonai will guard your life. Adonai will guard your going and your coming, now and forever. We say shalom. We say shalom, not goodbye. For shalom is goodbye and hello and wholeness and peace, all threaded together in one breath. And in one breath, we too say goodbye to a hand to hold, a kiss and a tight embrace. And in the same breath of shalom, we say hello to an ocean of memories and a rush of emotion, gratitude and sorrow, tears and laughter, and trembling and fatigue, all in one breath. We say shalom. Sonny Potter lived a full life, a beautiful life, and lived life fully. Sonny was a loving son, a devoted husband to his wife Gloria of 73 years, a loving mother to Howard and Aline, an adoring grandmother to Tracy, Jeff, and Jeremy, a cherished an adoring grandfather to Tracy, Jeff, and Jeremy, an adoring great-grandfather to Spencer, Emmy, Lucy, and Benjamin, a treasured friend to many, and so much more. Sonny and Gloria met on the L train in Chicago when Gloria was just 15 years old, and it was clear then that their love would last a lifetime. They built a home together, a family, and a future. The rabbis in the Talmud ask a series of 4 questions. They ask who is wise, who is mighty, who is rich, and who is honored. And I believe after learning about Sonny and hearing from his family that he fell into all 4 of these categories, according to the rabbis. They begin by asking who is wise, and they answer, the one who learns from everyone. And it is clear that Sonny had an impact on so many, and someone who has that big of an impact does so by being in relationship. having an amazing sense of humor, being brutally honest, asking for help, and learning from all of those around him. When Gloria described how they built their business from scratch, she explained that they asked for help a lot, and they received help from lots of different people along the way. It was a beautiful mix of luck and opportunity, but opportunity doesn't just appear. Sonny had to learn from all of those around him and understand people and be in relationship with people before he could ask for help. And he took risks. So many people are risk averse, but he didn't even know the meaning of that. He worked hard, he played hard, and he had an inherent wisdom to learn from those around him and really get to know those around him and realize that without taking those risks, that only with taking those risks does one get to live life fully. And the rabbis ask, who is mighty? The one who has control of their emotions. I learned that no matter where Sonny was in the world, when it came time for his parents' yard site, he would be sure to find a synagogue to say Kaddish. It would be easy enough to go about life and find it inconvenient to stop what one is doing, especially in the midst of traveling, but really at any time, to pause and remember your parents to say Kaddish. But he knew the true value. He understood how much meaning that this had to him, and he knew how much meaning his parents had in his life, and he was sure to make time to remember them. He knew the value that this would have on his life, even if it wasn't always easy. And the rabbis ask, who is rich? And they answer, the one who is happy with what they have. Sonny was happy with what he had, and this was clear by the way that he wanted to share his happiness with those around him. I am sure that everyone here has plenty of stories of the way that he shared his happiness for life. But one that stood out to me as we were in conversation with the family was how happy he was to eat. I am still in awe of his book of restaurants. Wherever Sonny went, in every city, he would rate restaurants and compiled a book, whether it was on Chinese food or veal parmesan. He wanted people to know where to go for the best food. And this book is a clear indicator that he wanted to share his love for life. He could have just explored all of the restaurants and loved the food himself, but he wanted to make sure that there was a book compiled so that other people could experience the best places as well. And I still do want to see this book. And finally, the rabbis ask, who is honored? And they answer, the one who gives honor to others. The love that Sonny had for his family and his friends, and even as I just learned, a conversation with a pharmacist went a long way. It sounds like he really had a way of making people feel like they were honored. And I think that probably everyone here in this room has ways that that his honor to you had a lasting impact. And this stands out by the way that everyone speaks of how Sonny treated newcomers to the family along the way. Odette spoke so beautifully about how Sonny treated her as his own from day one. And the way that Tracy spoke about how her grandfather took in her husband is just another example of how Sonny honored those close to him. This is a merit that is invaluable. The way someone makes you feel has a lasting and lifelong impact. And that's why the rabbis chose to close with this question. Sonny was a man of honor. And it's a beautiful thing that all of you have come here today to honor him as well. I now invite up his son Howard, followed by his grandchildren and friend Mickey, to continue to honor his memory.
Hello, everybody. Under normal circumstances, I would wing this, but I'm going to stay with the script. So, excuse me, can you hear me better? Thank you, Rabbi, and thank everyone assembled here today. Your effort to gather, as the rabbi said, a great honor, but specifically a great honor to my mother, as well as the rest of her family who is with us today and elsewhere around the country. So hello out there on the World Wide Web. Thank you for sitting in. The collective presence bestows a well-deserved adoration on my father, and all of you are thereby accumulating a pocket full of mitzvahs to deposit in your personal accounts. So collectively, we accomplish a great deal of good in this chapel today, and thank you all, and best to you. I also want to call out and thank Lori and Michael for years of kindness and love and good deeds extended to the Potter clan, and for arranging this use of the sanctuary here for celebrating my dad's long life. Thank you. Ceremoniously, we proceed today a bit in a different manner than many funerals you may have attended before, by what may appear to be missing, a casket. There will not be, as well, a procession to a cemetery, nor a traditional gravesite burial. In all other ways, however, these services are fully in common with long-established practices. The recognition of life and providing a vehicle for the survivors in terms of guidance, comfort, and all these blessings remain intact. As through our prayers, however we individually reach out to cope and to understand that which we do not fully comprehend, you can search for the spirit of God's existence and discover peace and gain solace anywhere and at any time, because God exists and His Spirit exists everywhere and all of the time. Generally speaking, today the survivors of loved ones rarely, if ever, return to grave sites out of respect, fulfilling a service of responsibility, for quiet reflection, or for comfort. But I feel that is okay. As a modern society, we have grown comfortable with our frenetic schedules and physical distances. Still, the lasting influence of our family and friends who have moved physically beyond remain quite available to us and may be touched and consulted over and over again, anywhere and at any time. I hope standing before you now that you have enjoyed, those who have enjoyed long or relatively shorter relationships with my dad, when opportunity and need arises, will be able to reach back to the positive, happy times that you had when you struggled or when you just gathered to celebrate, and re-relish the lessons and memories of your particular relationships. For me, well, I'm not the sort of guy to be at all comfortable opening or sharing or self-analyzing my 72 years of being my dad's son. I will attempt to summarize what I feel are the longest standing and most significant benefits and model lessons that I have received from my father. Evaluate these as they may relate to you. Besides an arrestingly handsome array of facial features and a full head of hair, I have received much to thank and today honor my father for. 1, the irreplaceable value of honesty and straightforwardness. 2, respect for details and accuracy, or in my line of work, the importance of filtering through smoke to distinguish the signal from the noise. Reliance and self-respect for hard work and seen through commitments. Loyalty. Probably enough said, except be a pox on those who ever cursed him, crossed him, I'm sorry. And perhaps the most value lesson for me is the value of confidence, the pleasure of personal satisfaction that may be derived only from establishing legitimate self-reliance and self-respect. Because if our modern world has ever produced a largely successful self-made person who lived a life through those attributes, it was my dad. Look upon his memory for personal strength and may some guidance to address all sorts of challenges, anywhere and at any time. I know that I will. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Sure, yeah, thank you. So I'm Tracy. I always said I was never going to be the person that brought my phone up to do any speech, and yet here I am, so that's okay. So Jeff and I wanted to take this time to reflect on some memories of our grandpa, and one way we always did that was starting our phone conversations in this way. Hi, Grandpa. Hi, my favorite granddaughter. Grandpa, I'm your only granddaughter. What are you doing? I would say, I'm talking to you. And he would say, I knew you were going to say that. 43 years, that was the same conversation every single time we got on the phone. And traditions were really important to my grandpa. And when I started to think about what I wanted to say, that was kind of the theme, that there were just a lot of traditions. And every year for my birthday, he would send a rose for every year old I was. You might think that by the time I was 12, 25, 40, he would just stick with a dozen. But no, he would always say, you're this many years old and you get one for good luck. And it was something I looked forward to every single birthday, and I know I will very much miss. Other family traditions included a lot of traveling to see my grandma and my grandpa in Florida, in Chicago, and even once or twice in Palm Springs. A lot of time, we always had fun swimming at night and swimming all day in the house in Boca. Going to visit the jewelry store, I loved seeing my name in the glass of the individual necklaces, and I would say, Grandpa, is that because me? And he would say, yes, of course, what other name would I put on the necklace? And even wearing our Potter Pack sweatshirts in Disneyland, which I wish I kind of still had now. And you always had to pack the extra sweatshirt because Grandpa kept that thermostat way down in his house. Every vacation spent was just a fun time to make memories with both Grandma and Grandpa. Once I was in college and beyond, I would travel on my own to see Grandma and Grandpa, and I got to form my own adult relationship with them, which I knew was really special and became less commonplace amongst my peers. I feel so blessed that my husband Jared was able to have a relationship with Grandpa too, in the absence of his own grandparents. In fact, Grandpa would call Jared all the time for tech help, new advice buying on the regular. I also feel incredibly blessed that my own children, Spencer and Emmy, were able to spend time with what Emmy called Grandpapa and have memories of him And the final tradition that I think is very important to reminisce on is the importance of hot fudge. I can remember cooking hot fudge in his kitchen in Florida. It was a 3-ingredient recipe: milk, sugar, cocoa, and you have to stir until you think it's thick enough, and then you have to stir some more. And don't even think of suggesting another ingredient or adding to the recipe. That was it. This was the recipe. Spencer wanted me to make sure that I told everyone here that he will always remember Grandpa's ice cream order at the store across the street from his apartment at the Carlisle. 3 scoops of strawberry ice cream, extra hot fudge, and some on the side, because you never know. We've been having hot fudge sundaes in our house all week, and I know that Grandpa is smiling every time we have one. Skål.
Is this on as well? Yeah. Hello, I'm Jeff. For those of you I just met today, but most of you I have known for a long time. And so I also wanted to say a few things about Grandpa. And similar to what Tracy said, a lot of what I remember about him are really, in the form of just that, like very specific memories, consistent memories in time that spanned across my life. We never lived in the same place, the same city as Grandma and Grandpa. So a lot of the time we spent together physically was either vacations or special life moments like bar mitzvahs and weddings, milestone birthdays. But throughout all this, Grandpa's vibe, at least to me, was that of consistency. I always knew what I was going to get with him, kind of like what my dad said. He was a straight shooter. He didn't BS me, probably to a fault when I was very young. But that honesty made me comfortable and made me feel like I knew who he really was. And now, looking back, I realize that what really stood out to me is that Grandpa's love was so simple. He most definitely wasn't over the top. He wasn't doty or overly expressive. But that was okay, because he had a way of doing the littlest things, a little glance or a smile at the most opportune time, or even the occasional direct comment that made it so easy to know that he loved me and that he was there for me. So with that consistency and simplicity in mind, a few memories, as I mentioned, to share, things that I always think of when I think of him. And so Tracy kind of stole my thunder on this one, but it was the same for me. Every single phone call I had with him my entire life was the same script. And it was slightly different, but it was, "What are you doing?" And I would say, "Talking to you." And he goes, "I knew you were going to say that." And it was every time. It was silly, for sure, but it didn't matter the amount of time between calls or the reason we were speaking. It was always the same, and I loved that. I will always remember Grandpa for the way he looked physically and how he carried himself. He was Mr. Cool, to me at least. Pleated slacks, tucked in, collared polo shirt, slicked back hair, always perfect hair. I'll always remember our week-long vacations to Grandma and Grandpa's Boca house. We would spend our days jumping in and out of the pool. Grandpa would be hanging out, kind of just standing there, observing, not overbearing, but present, watching and enjoying. I will always remember how Grandpa had a dirty sense of humor and wouldn't be shy to let you know that. And even when I was pretty young, he would inappropriately come up to me and ask, "Hey, you getting any?" And I always remember that he said sex instead of cheese when he was posing for a picture. And I thought that was weird. But, that was Grandpa. I will always remember when he would slip me a beer at Passover and remind me not to tell my mother. And I will remember our trips to Chicago, going to Cubs games, or eating Gino's East pizza or Carson's ribs or Walker Brothers. I'll remember swimming in that pool as well, up on the roof of their apartment building, which was the coolest thing you could possibly do when you were 10 years old. And then there was Grandpa again, always there, just hanging out with us and being there. I will always remember the way he lit up when we took our daughter. when we took Lucy to Palm Beach to meet him. And they were just sitting on the couch, and he was a 90-year-old man, and she was a 1-year-old, and they were just looking at each other and making each other laugh. And I will remember that we were, able to come down here about 6 weeks ago, so we could introduce Grandpa to our son Benjamin, because COVID made that difficult. Grandpa was weak, and it was tough, but he was, he really kind of perked up for the occasion. And we went out that night for dinner, and we had Italian food, and in true Grandpa fashion, he ate an enormous bowl of mussels and fettuccine Alfredo, and it was, hilarious and wonderful. And, I will always remember when I drove Grandma and Grandpa back to their apartment after dinner, and he and I hugged in a way that, we never have before. And it was tight and real and happy and sad all at once. And we both knew that this was really, we were saying goodbye to each other. And I'm really grateful that we had that moment, and I'll remember it forever. And, I'll miss you, Grandpa, and thanks for everything.
For me, this is kind of like coming home. My family's been affiliated with Temple Beth Shalom since 1958, and one of my most vivid memories was your predecessor, Rabbi Harry Jolt, who made the comment in his later years when he was in his 90s that his most fervent prayer was that he should die healthy. And it was a blessing for Sonny that he had 94 years of health, and just at the very end passed on with an illness. But he was very blessed to pass in that fashion. I remember some other lessons from here, having a discussion about who was God's favorite of all the wonderful people in our heritage. Some rabbis advocated for David as being God's favorite because he had imperfections. He wasn't a holy man. He had warts, and he had his own mishigas. And it kind of reminds me that Sonny also was a favorite of everybody's, even with his imperfections. And but at the end, he was true. He was a real person. He was a man of honor. He was a man of dignity. Sonny was my friend, and perhaps a true friend is one of life's most important callings. You get to pick your friends. You don't get to pick your family. And I was very honored and blessed to be considered a friend of Sonny's. He was true. He was always available. We didn't speak all that often, but he was always available and always had a good word, a good piece of advice. And He was very dear and very loving. Sonny's greatest blessing was Gloria, and I'm not sure if that's the converse of that is actually accurate, but Gloria just made Sonny so secure, so cared for, so lovingly cared for. And your 73 years together inspires all of us, Gloria, and with patience and a great big heart. Thank you for that role, being that role model. So I was thinking what generation Sonny would be considered. I know there's millennials out there, and a millennial from a different century perhaps, but not sure Sonny was part of the greatest generation, but perhaps it could be characterized as the generation that had the most fun. And I think a large part of Sonny's life was about having fun. He loved life, he loved the challenges, he loved taking risks, he loved fulfilling all of his potential in so many ways. He was successful in business, he was successful with family, he was successful as a friend. Sonny was aptly named, starting out with Sherwin, knowing his proclivities to gamble. He was a Sherwin, and then his love for being outdoors and in the sun, so aptly being called Sonny. So Sonny's legacy are his friends, not many of whom are here because they've gone to greener, perhaps, pastures. His legacy is his family, his generations of fathers, and the care and love he instilled in all of us. And I would also like to thank the rabbi for giving us, at least for me, giving me a new perspective on the 23rd Psalm. It was much more relevant than the ones I've been hearing all my life, and I thank you for that, Rabbi. And thank you for the honor of being able to say some words about my dear friend Sonny. It was a blessing in my life. Thank you.
At this point, I would like to invite up anyone else who would like to share some words or stories about Sonny.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Driven. I think everybody knows. And is Lori? You want to say a few words first, Lori, or are you just?
You speak first.
Well, I just wanted to give a particular perspective of my relationship with Sonny. It's difficult to talk about Sonny and a relationship with him without also, of course, including Gloria. For 73 years, I've known Sonny and Gloria, I've calculated, for 54 years, which is when Lori and I first started dating. Most of you know that Lori and I met as students at Northwestern University. And one of the reasons Lori went to Northwestern was because Gloria and Sonny lived in Morton Grove, a nearby suburb of Evanston, where Northwestern is located. And she had family nearby and the comfort of all that. And so when we started dating, it was not uncommon for me to pick her up on a Saturday night at the house, the Potter House in Morton Grove. And that was not a circumstance where, you know, we arranged for Lori to be waiting outside and I drove by and she got in the car and we drove off. No, it was, and I'm not complaining about this, it was a visit to Gloria and Sonny on a Saturday night, and it often entailed watching All in the Family before we left. It often entailed Gloria and Sonny themselves getting ready to go somewhere after we left. Rabbi mentioned that Sonny liked to ask questions. Well, one of the questions I seem to recall on some of those Saturday evenings is a voice coming down from upstairs along the lines of, "Gloria, how come I can't find two socks that match?" It was that relationship. But more significantly, what those occasions and what our entire history and relationship with Gloria and Sonny over the years is one of welcoming, of embracing us, embracing me into the family, and I'll always be grateful.
All right, so I'll add a little bit, but I also went up to Northwestern, by the way, because my cousin Marshall, Gloria's brother, had gone up there. He had been living down here, and we were all the progeny of sisters. There were many sisters. My mother and Gloria's mom were sisters. She's the first of the grandchildren. I'm the last of the grandchildren. We're a generation apart. So Howard's 6 months difference in age. So I played with him and with Aline. So, we used to go every summer and all that. So I went to, and Marshall is hopefully watching this. I know they got on the Zoom. So Marshall did want me to say that we would have had the service before 11, but Sonny wouldn't have come. And I mean, all I can say is our lives were so entwined. All my life, we've been, Gloria and Sonny, been visiting, and we were going up there all the time, all the summers. So, and my ring here is, of course, from Lipson Potter Jewelers. The stone was bought specifically,
Hold up your lips and powder jewelry.
Yeah. And, until that time, quite a bit of jewelry that we'd call up. But, and again, when we went up there, when I went up there for college, every Friday night we used to come. Marshall and I would come back for dinner. If I was sick, I would let Gloria take care of me. My mother would come up, and actually, Sonny's parents, aunt and uncle, Faye, and lived across the street from Mike's grandparents and aunt and uncle. They went to the same synagogue. Our mothers met a year before we did. My mother, well, actually we met that. Yeah, my mother came up to take me to college, stayed with Gloria until I moved in, and it was Rosh Hashanah, and went with her. They always would go after services to Aunt Faye's house, and my mother-in-law and her family would come over for dessert. And our mothers spoke for a very long time about their sons, by the way. So I met him that year, he didn't ask me out. But the next year he asked me out. And I told, my mother was visiting again, and she said, well, I said, it's a commuter. He lives at home. He's from West Rogers Park. And said, well, what's his name? And I said, Dribbin. And Gloria just was cackling hysterically. I know Dribbins. And we went from there. Every date we had went around the communication. His grandmother, his mother, everybody. We went to a movie. They wanted to know how the movie was. So we got married anyway. So that's all I have to say. Okay. Anyway.
Wow, such beautiful words, truly a blessing. It sounds like his life and his memory was really and truly a blessing to all who knew him. We now rise for the traditional prayer recited at death, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamramim, Hamtzei Mnucha Nechona Al Kanfei Hashchina, Bama'alot Kadoshim V'Tohorin, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirin, Nishmat Shlomo, Shehalach Le'olamo ba'avor shenadvu tzedakah. Be'ad hazkarat nishmato, Bagan Eden tehe menuchato, Lechen Baal harachamim, Yastirehu beseter kanafav leolamim, Veyitzror bitzror, Hachayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato, Vayanuach bashalom al mishkavo venomar. Amen. God, full of mercy, who dwells above, give rest on the wings of the divine presence, amongst the holy, pure, and glorious, who shine like the sky, to the soul of Sonny, for whom prayer was offered in memory of his soul. Therefore, the merciful one will protect his soul forever, and will merge his soul with eternal life. The everlasting is his heritage, and he shall rest peacefully at his lying place. And let us say, Amen. Chana Senesh wrote this beautiful poem reminding us that while they are no longer with us physically, their lives live on, guiding us. We meditate on these words in Sonny's light as we prepare ourselves for Mourner's Kaddish. Yesh Kochavim. There are stars above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. We now offer the words of Mourner's Kaddish, which all of you should have in front of you if you would like to join. The Mourner's Kaddish is a prayer that does not actually mention death, but instead celebrates life and reminds us in these difficult moments, in our time of mourning and sadness, that we are so grateful for the life that Sonny has lived and the impact that he had on all who knew him. Yitgadal ve'yitgadash shemei rabbah, Be'alma divrach hiruteh ve'amlich malchuteh, Bechayachon uv'yomachon uv'chayei techol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala uv'izman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh, Ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal shmei dekudashah b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran ba'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, Amen. On behalf of all who knew and loved Sonny, I offer our condolences and support. Know that he is always with you, holding you, celebrating you, and inspiring you. May his memory be for a blessing always. Amen.